Welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. It's hot. Summer's here. What can we grow in the summer? What is heat tolerant? It loves the hot weather. We're going to show you today. Well, the end is nigh. Actually, the end is here for these cucumbers. Gardening in the Texas coast, zone 9A, it gets hot. And the spring garden here, some of the plants are going to push through a little longer, like that tomato bed to my left there. But some of the plants are done. And there's a gray area between the transition from spring to summer gardening. Well, it's what, June 11th, 12th, something like that, and it's in the mid-90s consistently. These cucumbers are giving up, and even if they weren't giving up, it's time for them to come out. These bush beans are coming out as well. My onions are going to come out and be harvested because it's time for me to grow summer crops here. I need this bed for summer. And so we're going to transition this crop. We're going to bring in all our onions, and these are bunching onions, and they're at the end of their life. They're starting to get a little tough, so we're going to dehydrate these and save them for later. But yeah, it's time to prep the bed. We're going to get rid of all the weeds. This is very satisfying work. If you don't have a flame weeder, I highly recommend them. So we're going to go and put in summer crops now, things that tolerate the high heat. We're going to grow some sweet potatoes in here, some cowpeas, some long beans, and some various crops that can handle the heat. So we've got to get our bed ready. Flame weeding is very handy when you have borders to your beds that won't burn, or maybe you don't have any borders to your beds at all. Flame weeding is a traditional way to kill off the plant. Now, you don't have to burn everything down to the ground. You just need to burst the cell walls in the plant. I tend to kind of go overboard because I think it's fun. What you want to do, though, if you've got these cells and the edges along these cells of these cement blocks, is go along first, kick with your foot, dig with your hand, and see if there's any critters there. We had a big toad hopping around here today, and I had to relocate him. Yeah, you don't want to burn up any animals. That's just awful. But yeah, now we've knocked back most of our weed growth. Yeah, the roots down there, some of them are still very viable. They'll start coming back. But now I can see what I'm doing. I can come in with my stirrup hoe, go through and break up those roots a little bit before we plant our summer crops. The flame weeding also has the benefit of killing the weed seeds that are on the surface or very close to the surface. Just pass that flame slowly over the surface, and all those weeds that you saw that were growing in my garden, well, they drop in seeds in there. I can kill that seed bank on the surface before I till everything up or before I go and hoe everything. I'm just going to bury those seeds down, and they're just going to hibernate there. They call it the seed bank, and they're going to be down in there, and as soon as they get back near the surface, they're going to come right back. So flame weeding helps take care of some of that, and it's just fun. Now, what I'm doing next is I'm just taking my stirrup hoe and I'm going just under the surface, about 2 to 3 inches. It's not really tilling, but it's just loosening up the top portion of the soil and loosening up that soil to give me a nice seed bed and some fluffy soil, but it also serves to go and cut the roots of all those plants, all those weeds that we just burned. It cuts them and knocks them back just a little more. Now, this garden's going to be full of weeds at the end of the summer growing season, but at least we've knocked it back for now. So what I'm going to do now is put some sweet potato slips in here and sow some summer seeds. Sweet potatoes are a crop that can endure the summer heat here. And I've started these slips by taking small little tubers that were from last year's crop, and I buried them in these pots. And you can see they've done very well growing up through the soil here. Now I'm just going to break off some of these slips and just dig them out. And I'm going to preserve some of their roots like this. And now here we've got some new sweet potato plants. There's 2 of them there, a couple more right here. You want to have the roots on them. You don't want to plant, that one looks a little compromised. You don't want to plant a sweet potato itself and think you're going to get more sweet potatoes. These plants will grow up and they'll have all that starch down there on that tuber, and they'll just draw from that before putting on any sweet potatoes, and you won't get any that season. It's better to break the slips off of the starter tuber with roots. And so we'll get some of these ready to plant. Now these are going to fill this area, and they'll vine and climb and sprawl, and I'm just going to let them sprawl and act as a ground cover. I'm not going to put them up on a trellis, but you can if you want to. Just want to make sure you cover those roots. And I'm going to space them about 1 foot apart. They will get really dense in here, and that's all right. All right. Perfect little fella. You just fill it in. That's perfect. Now what I'll do is I'll trim off a little bit of this foliage, because that's too much foliage for that little bit of root. There we go. Yeah, it's a little warm, isn't it? Okay, when it's in the 90s, I have some tips for you. People often ask me, why do you garden in the heat of the day when it's so hot? Well, sometimes you got to garden when you have to garden. But here, I can choose to garden in little chunks, 20 minutes at a time, and then go in and take a rest when it's hot like this. Or I can come out when the sun's gone down, but then I get chewed up with mosquitoes. So, you know, take your poison and choose wisely. But stay hydrated and take frequent breaks. Well, now we're going to plant our cowpeas and okra. I've got some cowpeas here. I think I'm going to plant this this Holstein variety first, and maybe fill in with some purple hulls. I haven't grown these Holsteins yet. Cowpeas are a southern pea, like a black-eyed pea, like a purple hull pink eye, like a zipper cream. They all love the heat. In fact, it says their ideal temp is up to 95, and they prefer 8 to 12 hours of full sun. They'll bush, but sometimes they vine. They make a good ground cover. I've discovered that cowpeas in my area are aphid magnets, so you got to watch that. Just hose those aphids off. But among my cowpeas, I'm going to plant some okra, some red okra. The thought here is that the okra will grow tall while the cowpeas will sprawl, and those cowpeas might even climb up the okra. But okra, it's a stout plant. I've grown this bowling red in years past. It's a really good okra. It gets really tall. I think it'll work. So let's plant some seeds. Now, you can soak these overnight. They recommend that, but I've never found it to be necessary. I just plant them directly in the ground, dry like that. Just water them in really well. I'm going to drop these seeds into this trench about 6 inches apart. And I've got so many cowpea seeds that if I need to fill in where some don't germinate, that'll be just real easy. All you want to do is just put them in a little trench and gently cover them over. And that's how easy it is to plant these cowpeas. You want to keep these watered real daily. You want to keep them watered daily, including those sweet potato slips. The more you water, the better chances you have of good and consistent germination. Because it's hot, and you water, and that water just evaporates right out. Now I have a little extra, so I'm just going to fill in. We can thin if we need to, but I found you don't even need to thin these out very much. Cover them over lightly. This is not rocket science. People have been planting these seeds for thousands of years. You can do it too. In fact, there have been years in which I just broadcast these seeds on the surface and raked them in. And that works just fine as well. I'm going to put some okra in now. I'm just going to take a few seeds here and just stick them in and shove them about 1 inch deep. If you can, it's pretty hard soil right there. Cover them about 1 inch deep. spread them out quite a bit. They say 18 inches, so I'm just going to do 2 little rows here. Dig a hole about 1 inch deep, cover it over. Now you could do 2 seeds in a hole. Ensure you get some germination. Did I put cowpeas in here? I don't know. I think I made a mistake. Oh well, we'll let them grow up together and see what happens. Okra will grow in the summer heat like you wouldn't believe. It is a wonderful crop, and it's a heavy producer, and will keep producing for you well near to the fall, if not into the fall. All right, I think that's enough okra. Actually, I don't. I'm going to plant the rest of this too. I like to water until I see the water pooling up on the surface. Then I'll let that soak in and then come back and water again. What that'll do is keep some moisture down there during this hot climate, this hot weather. And it'll soften that seed coat on those hard seeds we just put in. And those seeds will be able to germinate with that moisture. Come back and do this every day until you see your sprouts. We're also going to hit these sweet potatoes again as well to ensure that they transplant well. All right, well there we have our transitional season garden, where we still have some spring crops on one side that are still performing, but this bed needed to be upplanted for summer, and things ripped out, summer crops put in. Otherwise it would be too late to get a summer crop if we waited too long. So we've got our sweet potatoes, our cowpeas, and our okra in this bed. Other summer crops that are high heat tolerant would include things like eggplant. Lots of eggplant varieties can tolerate the heat. We've got some over there. Peppers do well. Malabar spinach will do well for you in high heat. There are lots of varieties of vegetables that can handle high heat. Long beans, the Chinese and the Thai long beans, like the yard long beans, man, those thrive in the heat, and we're going to grow some of those as well. I just don't know where yet. So, well, there we go. Thanks for joining me today on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I hope that I've earned your subscription. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll talk to you next time. Happy gardening.